Good evening and welcome to Gator's Garage, the home of all things historical gaming in and around the great city of Savannah, Georgia. This is your host, Mike Baker the Gator, and I have a special program for you this evening. The Age of Chivalry sets from our good friends over at Wargames Atlantic. We're going to be looking at their knights, at their sergeants, and at their peasants. And there's a couple of other sets that are due to come out. And they've also come out with a couple of fantasy sets of City Guard and Town Folk, which also complement these. And of course, you can find all of those at our web store, gatorgames.com. That's the best way to support the channel is buy merchandise. Before we get too deep into this, you know the drill. Please give me a like, give me a share, make a comment. If there's something you'd like to see me cover, if you got comments about what I'm showing, would love to hear from you. Share with your friends, share with your enemies. Heck, I don't care. Just share. But all these things help the YouTube algorithm and help us grow the channel, and get the word out about a store that's focused on historical gaming, and a store owner who plays most of what he sells. So there you go. If I don't play it, I at least want to play it. But there you go. So that's one of the advantages of running a small shop. So, like I say, we are talking about the Age of Chivalry set that has come out by Wargames Atlantic. It will eventually be fully supported by a revised version of the Baron's War. So be looking for that. That's going to be pretty cool. And of course, the Baron's War is currently in print. You can get that. It's a small skirmish game. I'm actually prepping them for uh, the I'm actually prepping them for a game called Blood and Crowns by our other good friends, Firelock Games. You may know them from Blood and Plunder, and maybe you have seen Blood and Crowns. Maybe you've not. If you've not, it of the Blood and games that I've played, and I've played, I think all of the ones that have come out so far. I've played Blood and Plunder. I've played Blood and Valor, Blood and Steel. So I'm a big fan. Like my history with Warlord, my history with War Games Atlantic is I was a fanboy long time before I started selling their things. So it was a natural fit when I began a business partnership with them. Blood and Crowns uses pretty much the exact same card system as Blood and Valor. I'm sorry, as Blood and Plunder. So transitioning from Blood and Plunder over to Blood and Crowns will be very easy. Also, it has, of course, being a Firelock Games rule set, it has a set of ship rules in there. So I think it seems like anything from the uh, late, I guess, or mid gunpowder period back has a ship system. I know the new Napoleonic skirmish game they're working on is going to have a ship system. So you can play on the water, you can play on the land. I tend to like to keep my feet firmly planted on terra firma. In this video, we're going to be kind of looking at how I put together some samples of the Foot Knights, the Peasant Levy, and the Foot Sergeants. I was preparing to demo the game. I wanted some miniatures to demo the game with, and my options were buy some pre-painted or build some of my own. And Blood and Crowns, like Blood and Plunder and all the other games, doesn't really require a lot of figures. So I figured, well, I've got about a month, oh, let me give this a go. So I pulled a couple sprues out of each box, and I went to work. So here we go. First set we looked at here is the Foot Sergeants, and this is me getting started on them. The Sergeant's kit is pretty cool. You can build them as heavy infantry. You can build them as footmen with spears. You can build them as crossbowmen. I opted to go with pretty much light knights or heavy infantry with swords for the footmen, and then crossbowmen for some range combat. The crossbow's got the advantage of being very hard hitting at close range, but it takes a little bit of time to load. But it's a pretty effective ranged weapon, and that can be important. Just about it seems like we think of ancients as up close and personal, push of pike, push of shield, and that happens. But just about all these games and in all periods, it seems you have a ranged combat option, and I always like to exercise it. The next one was the Peasant Levy, and you'll see some more of these assembled later. Here we have a picture of the sprue. Now, check this out. You can assemble them. Of course, you see the guy with the pitchfork. If you want to go the riled up, rebellious peasants, Master, the peasants are revolting. Well, there's nothing new there, but maybe they should take a bath. But you can do them as just peasants, lowly peasant levy, grab the nearest tool or weapon and run out to to serve their lord, defend their property or whatever. You can also do them as light infantry, which is again what I did. Most of my guys are either going to have spears, or you can do them as bowmen. And in this case, I chose to use the Levy infantry to make a unit of 6 bowmen, and worked pretty effectively. I had 6 bowmen and 14 spearmen. The spearmen were like the low level levies, and the bowmen were like average bow guys, and made a nice addition to my force. Here we go. Here's the knights. Got a good close up shot there. Really like. I gotta say, I really like how these guys go together. I enjoy. They're easy to put together. Some of these you'll have like a a two-handed weapon, and they seem to fit together very well. As you can see, you can do them in a variety of shield types, variety of poses. I think of the knights, my personal favorite is the guy with the sword going over the top of the shield. I just think that looks gnarly cool. I got the guys in the back that would be more kind of your guys maybe that reached back to their Saxon ancestor to take up axes. I think I did my knights units of 3 and group them you group them by weapon type, but that was kind of me getting started. So basically I've got 2 units here. One of the things about Blood and Crowns is the units can be from 3 to 6 to 3 to 12. I think levies run 3 to 12, and then knights run 3 to 6. I can tell you after playing through a couple games, 3 is probably too small for a unit. It's just too fragile. You probably want 5 or 6 per unit at least, just to give your forces some staying power. Here we go. There's the I think most of my knights there, 3, 6, 9, 12. Yeah, I think that was going to be my whole ensemble of knights there. Again, really wanting to highlight that you can put Blood and Crowns on the table with just a very few figures. It's one of the things I love about both Blood and Crowns and Blood and Valor, or Blood and Plunder. I keep saying Blood and Valor. Blood and Plunder is that they do allow you to play with very few figures. And for me, the faster you can get your guys out of the box, assembled, painted, put on the table, and pushing around the table, for me, that's a win. Again, 3-man units are kind of brittle, but you at least get to walk through the mechanics and begin learning the game, and enjoying the world. So here you go. First thing I did is I painted them necrotic green. It's a good middle of the road color, takes both light and dark colors quite well. You can see I've painted some heads there, painted some armor. I've got the knights here, and what looks like, yeah, that's all my knights. And yeah, that's pretty much all. Yeah, that's all my knights there. So we're working on those, getting them ready. Here we've gone past the base coding stage, and the reason I haven't done this as a step by step is I don't quite yet have the video equipment to do that. So I take pictures and share them with y'all. I hope you enjoy it. You can see my archers here, my peasant archers and my peasant spearmen, all back there ready to get all kinds of crazy. You can see some of the livery, or I'm sorry, some of the heraldry on some of the shields. Those were done by my lovely wife. The halberdiers on the far right with the open helmets and the red were actually some resin printed halberdiers that I picked up from a friend of mine in Augusta, and I threw them in just kind of as a little extra force. It's one less thing I had to assemble, and I wanted to see how they painted up, and I also wanted to see how they would perform on the tabletop. Here we go. There's some more work on my knights. You can see the crossbowman. The general focus was to have a unit that was basically in green, and then a unit that was basically in red. Please save your Christmas jokes. But that I was trying to do something besides the old tired red and blue. Again, you can see the excellent work that Mrs. Baker did, Miss Gabby, on the heraldry on the shields, which is just she had so much fun doing that. The guys on the far left there, far left, are actually a combination of foot sergeants and a couple of resin printed quote unquote great swordsmen, but they were holding their sword with one hand, so I slapped the knight shield on them and call them sergeants. So there you go. Again, they're your miniatures. It's your world. You can kind of mix and match and do them how you wish. Here's a couple of my Peasant Levy. These guys are mostly done. I just have to put a wash and do their bases, and I think I'm going to call them done. You can maybe do a little more, maybe put a black wash on the spears, put a face wash on the face, but they're pretty much done. They're ready to go and take their place in the line of battle. Here again, I've added some more detail to the figures. I've kind of regrouped them here. I've done some washes. kind of getting a feel for how my colors are coming together. I darkened in some of the reds and even added some whites as a cross hatching. So again, we're highlighting both the variety of colors you can do with medievals. I think that's one of the probably one of the turn-ons for medievals. Just like fantasy, you can break out your bright colors if you want to. Now, I went with more of a historical type palette, so my colors are tending to be a little bit more washed out. But there would be nothing at all preventing me or you from using a much brighter palette. My wife's a bit of a fashion maven, and she's like, "Well, the high saturation colors would have been really rare. Things like purples and dark blues would have been pretty rare and reserved probably for upper level royalty. Red, on the other hand, was pretty cheap to make and pretty cheap to put your hands on. But these guys have been on campaign, so it might have been a little light. Just a couple of points there. There's the washes. I used a combination of dark tone, soft tone, green tone, and sepia to throw some washes on these guys. I'm a huge fan of washes. I'm still kind of old school. I haven't started using any of the new, fast paint series, mainly because I have so much of the old stuff. So I tend to put a base coat on, block in my basic colors, throw in a wash, and then maybe throw in a dry brush to kind of bring out some of the highlights of the washes dulled down. And that's pretty much my system. I've used it for 25 years. Probably not going to change it anytime soon. For basing, I use craft paints. Some folks might poo-poo that, but craft paints are cheap. This is deco art from, I don't know, Michael's or Hobby Lobby, anywhere. It's a big bottle of dark chocolate, earth tone, and I do something that I don't know that I've ever heard of anybody else doing. Rather than put white glue or Mod Podge on my bases, I put a thick coat of this paint here, and then I dip it in sand. And I did not catch that step of my process, but if you've gamed with me in the past or you've looked at my games, you've seen the results. By putting the dark brown, it's going to come up and then dipping the sand in or whatever you're using for flocking. The paint will come up through the flocking and give a really good base color. I've generally been pretty happy with it. This is what I do with like 99% of my minis. Here you can see I have gone ahead and got all the flocking on. In this case, actually, it's just different grades and colors of just plain sand. And I put a thick coat of brown on there and went ahead and dipped them in there and got the sand on there. These guys are pretty much table ready at this point. You can see where I've thrown some washes on there. And it is just amazing. I'm going to just kind of flip back here. The difference between a non-based, you can see that, plain bases are okay. And I've seen people put plain bases on the table, and I always makes me twitch a little bit. And based model, to me, I've had models that they're not complete till you finish that base. And I'm probably going to go back and get some earth brown around the edges there just to kind of finish things off, unless I decide to do like maybe a light green. But there we go. These are pretty much table ready. They did see service in a couple of my demos. They were pretty well received. It was like, hey, they look pretty cool. So, is it Golden Demon? No. Is it something I'm happy to put on the table and play with all day long? And that's, I think, what most of us should ascribe to. I talk to folks sometimes that are like, "Oh my gosh, I'm afraid of painting." Don't be. It's like anything else. You're going to suck when you start. That's just life. And it's like any other skill, though. The more you do in practice, generally the better you're going to get. You might need to use a light. You might need to, get some heavier duty glasses or a jeweler's glass to help you kind of see some of the details that you want to pick out. But remember, at the end of the day, if your opponent can tell what your guys are and you can, and you're reasonably happy with how they look, that's what matters most of all. Let's get the troops painted, so we help tell the story, and let's get them on the table. And again, this is pretty much all the troops I used for my two demo games. Could have used a few more knights. I'm going to add a few more. Probably build my units of knights up to 6. In both games, the unit of 8 levy spearmen, just really gave the knights a bad time. So we're gonna work on that a little bit. And finally, if you're chomping at the bit and you really want to get into Blood and Crowns, we're offering a starter kit of the sergeants and the peasants and the rule book, all for $90. It's about 15% off of MSRP, which is 105. Again, I'm always trying to help you guys get into a game. And I'm always trying to say, okay, what's the easiest way to get into this game? How can I make this work? So what you get for that is you get one box of the sergeants, you get one box of the peasants, and you get the rule book. So you get 60 figures, I think, or either 60 or 54. I think the knights might be 24, and I think the peasants are 30. So you get 54 figures and a rule book. So that's 20, 54, 25, 27 figures on each side, more than enough to play a game. And then, of course, you got the rule book. So it's a good two-player starter set for $100. Well, you can't beat that with an ugly stick. You got to add in rulers. You got to add in D10s. Markers are in the back of the book if you want to photocopy them, or you can use your own. But it's a good way to get started. Again, Gator Games. We are all about making it easy for you to initially get into gaming, get into miniature gaming, or try out a new period. So I was just reading on Reddit today, somebody wanted to try out a new period. I'm like, this is a good way to do it. Just grab a couple small boxes of troops, grab a rule book, and you're off to the races. If you decide Blood and Crowns is not for you, well, you still got 2 units of troops, and there are lots and lots of medieval skirmish and battle games out there that these guys will fit into. I'm going to really thank you guys for your time tonight. It's been fun. I've really enjoyed. I enjoy doing the miniatures. As you can tell, I really do like to paint. I don't get near enough time to just get on the table and paint. And sometimes I'll just get in the mood and I'll be up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning painting, and then my eyes are all red. I'm tired and cranky in the morning, but that's what coffee's for. But I really do. I love painting the minis. Love talking about this stuff. I've been a gamer for Saints 45 years, and I've been a miniature gamer most of that time, and just love playing with the toy soldiers. If you got questions or comments, man, put them in the section below. I review them all. Right now, we're small enough I can answer them all. And then, like I say, give me a like, give me a share. Best way to support the channel is to buy some merch. This is Thirsty Business. If you want to buy me a cup of coffee or buy me a soda, buy me a 6-pack, I guess. You can give us $5 at Ko-Fi or at Patreon. Links for all that will be in the comments below. Be sure you check our website, sign up for our newsletter. We not only promote, of course, the store, but also we give you guys a heads up as to where our local club, the Savannah Garrison's meeting, and what other events that we're going to be at if you want to come out and meet the Gators. So thank you guys for your time tonight. And with that being said, I'm going to sign off. Thanks for watching.